Welcome to Animated Discussions. My friends call me Dee, and today,
Whoever saves one life saves the world entire.
Schindler's List follows Oskar Schindler, a war profiteer who's taking advantage of all the benefits war has to offer him at the expense of his Jewish counterparts.
There was always something missing. In every business I tried, I can see now it wasn't me that failed. Something was missing. War.
Schindler is selfishly living his business dream until he realizes how much his dream life is costing others. Schindler then makes it his mission to save as many Jews as possible, resulting in saving more than 1,000 Polish Jewish refugees by hiring them for his factory in World War II. This movie stars Liam Neeson as Oskar Schindler, Ralph Fiennes as Amon Goeth, and Ben Kingsley as Justek Stern.
The list is life.
This movie blew my mind in so many different ways. Only knowing the premise of the story, I was under the impression that Oskar was this good guy this whole time. I thought that he was someone who, from the get, was trying to protect people. I didn't realize the journey that he was going to go through. I did some research about him after, and whew, your boy was living his life. The first scene that we see Oskar in the movie, I genuinely thought he was like doing like this covert undercover thing to try to get the SS on his side so that he could convince them of certain things.
How you doing? You'd leave a woman alone at a table in a place like this?
Which the argument was that's exactly what he was doing, but for his own personal gain. I had no idea that he wasn't trying to save people from the jump. Then later his wife comes to visit and his mistress answers the door. And I was like,
Miss Jackson.
And then when she has to leave, the mistress has to leave, Oskar has no shame. He has no shame at all, or guilt or embarrassment. And he's like, oh, he would love her. You guys would be such good friends. It truly showcases how Oskar viewed life and what he felt he was entitled to. My favorite parts about his character development is how subtle they used moments to show that he's not completely heartless. There's a moment that I feel showcases that he cares at least a little bit. Some people argue with me that that's not what's happening, but I like to think that in that moment when Oskar meets his one-armed steel metal worker, and he gets mad at Stern, and then unfortunately that character dies, and then the SS officer.
A one-armed machinist, Oscar?
He was a metal press operator. Quite skilled.
I know part of it was he was defending himself for that action, but also I think the fact that he defended that person wasn't entirely selfish in that moment. It happens again when one of the Jews give him a gift for his birthday and he kisses her. He gets arrested for it, but there's that caring there. He views them as people, as he should. I don't know why this is shocking. Complete disclaimer, I've watched this movie twice, and I've recorded this twice to do this because it's so hard to watch, because it feels like this is what's happening in my country now. And it's hard to watch reality unfold while you're watching fantasy. I know this movie was based off of real life events. There's unfortunately an escapism that you can argue when you watch movies. You can be like, Oskar did great for that time. It just makes me wonder how many of us are going to be Oskar or have to be Oskar now. It's been very hard to watch this movie and feel like I'm basically just watching my country fall apart. Even in that, though, in him showing that he cares about people, one of the biggest times where it's completely obvious that he has just stopped pretending like he does not care about people is when all the Jews are in the train and he tries to get them water. I was getting nervous because I was like, are they going to do something to him for trying to hydrate them? That scene made me nervous, especially with how Amon was like studying him. Even then, though, his selfishness was very emphasized in a lot of moments. When Stern forgot his paperwork and Stern is on the train, and Oscar's doing everything he can to find Stern, and he rescues Stern.
What if I got here 5 minutes later? Then where would I be?
I hate that scene, but it's a very good scene because it shows the core of who Oscar is at that point. An interesting view of character development for me is the fake out, what I call fake out character development. There's a scene when Oscar is trying to get Amon to stop just senselessly killing. And he talks to him about how true power is pardoning people.
It's not power, though. It's justice. It's different than power. Power is when we have every justification to kill, and we don't.
You think that's power?
Amon, in training for his future role as Lord Voldemort,
Harry Potter. The boy who lived.
starts whispering about pardoning people.
I pardon you.
You see him try it for a day. And it's interesting because you watch Stern witness the development of this day. You watch Stern watch him let someone go, and then at the end of the day, you watch him kill someone. And you see both sides from Stern's point of view, and I do enjoy that fake character development because you see him genuinely try this and realize it's not worth it to him, which shows the depravity of his character. And I think it also shows I think it's a good comparison to how much Oscar does change, in my personal opinion. I think Amon also goes through struggles of trying to figure out how he viewed the people who were in his camp, especially with Helen. The way that he treats Helen and the way he talks to Helen.
And I realize that you're not a person in the strictest sense of the word, but I mean, maybe you're right about that too. You know, maybe what's wrong it's not us. It's it's this.
No, I don't think so. You're a Jewish bitch. You never talked me into it, didn't you?
But he loves her and he's attracted to her. And so he blames her for this. And the brain is insane. The way the brain tries to protect us is crazy. To justify hurting someone because she's a little witch, she's tricking you. And this is not a new story. Men have been doing this for years, where they are like, I shouldn't be attracted to you. It's your fault. You tempted me. And there are so many times where men have raped women and then have been like, ugh, I don't like you, because now she's not pure. So then they kill her. That has happened a lot. And so watching Amon in multiple ways just be this depraved character. Ralph, why are you so good at playing a villain, my guy? Man, I have a friend who loves to act, and he plays a phenomenal villain. And I'm like, what you hiding there? How you feeling, homie? What's going on? He's a great guy. That brings us into performance. And Ralph's performance is so chilling to me. There was a calculation and a devil-may-care attitude that shows how heartless a human is capable of being when they're trained to believe they are superior. It goes back to that psychological experiment where half the people were prisoners and half were police officers, and they switched and they had to end it early because people were getting hurt. It's just when we are trained to believe we are better than someone, we latch on to that. And I think it's an evolutionary thing. Again, the brain is insane. Amon doesn't find joy in his work. You can tell. You can see it in the scene where he's complaining about how long the day is. But he does find importance in it. He thinks that it is necessary. He genuinely believes he is superior and must make that known through the work he does. You can see the nonchalance in his killings from the balcony, how much he does not care, but how focused he is on it and bends down to grab the cigarette while holding the gun. He can't be bothered to take his hand off the gun to grab the cigarette. Oh my gosh. I also think Ben Kingsley does a great job in his role of Ishtekstern. He's a very stable person in the movie. He doesn't have a lot of character development, but he's a very round character. I would call him like a Jiminy Cricket kind of character in this movie. I feel like he is Oscar's conscience and helps Oscar develop a conscience more. It's talked about that Oscar Schindler, even though he was a selfish person in real life, was also a very empathetic person, but he tried to hide that. So I do think that was there, but I think him having that relationship with Stern really added to that. And I think Ben did a really great job of building that relationship. The only change he really makes in the movie is warming up to Oscar, but even that could be argued it's because of Oscar's character development that Stern starts to trust him. I don't think he has a sensitivity really to Oscar. It's hard to say that Oscar's not a terrible guy, but he's not an evil guy. He's a selfish guy. But that doesn't mean that Stern's going to be like, you know what, even though you're benefiting from the downfall of my people, you're all right. I think what's cool about Stern not having a lot of character development shows how awesome it is to have a round static character. You don't have to have a lot of character development to be a great character. It is important for a character to have character development in your movie, because if you just have static characters, what are you doing? But to have someone who is really just firm in who they are and constantly that throughout the movie, I think is awesome. And I think Stern did a very good job of making his character feel dynamic, even though he wasn't really dynamic in the definition of a dynamic character, which is someone who goes through a change of values. Stern doesn't go through a change of values, but he feels dynamic in how he acts, and I think he does a very good job.
You need a secretary to one. I don't know how. They're all so qualified. You have to choose.
I think he's layered. He had one focus. You can see his struggles throughout the movie as the world develops around him, and his boss who is insane. But he doesn't come off basic, and that's what I love. Neeson's performance was strong for me in this movie. I felt like he played Schindler very well. When I started researching the movie after, I realized that Oscar was pretty selfish, but he was known to be full of empathy, and I think Neeson towed that line very well. It wasn't until the end of the movie, however, where Neeson does that monologue.
I could have got more out. I could have got more. I don't know if I just... I could have got more.
That I really felt that he understood the gravity of his actions. For a while, it just felt like he was a man who was just getting things done, whether it was for his business or whether it was for saving people. And it wasn't until the end where he broke. And I think that was necessary. I think having that break or showing a part of that break sooner would have not been very realistic. I think there are a lot of times when men are very strong and very capable of doing a lot and don't always show how they feel about it underneath, but they are still making some amazing changes in the world. And so seeing something like that and then seeing him break at the end really, I don't want to say put a bow on the movie, but it added a finality and a realization to the movie that I think was very powerful. It's a phenomenal scene. There's a line where Schindler says, "War brings out the worst in people." I don't know that I agree. I think war brings out the truth of people. Now, if you're good, you'll fight for good. And if you're bad, you'll fight for bad. I also think it depends on what side of the war you're on. I think if you fake being good and then something happens, we'll see the truth about you. I think it brings out the worst pain, but I think it brings out the truth. But in Oscar saying this line, it makes me wonder if he's thinking of himself. Does he think this is his worst? He hasn't fully saved anyone yet. I think he's saved one or two people through Stern. And so Stern saved one or two people. But I wonder how he really viewed it, you know? One of the most powerful scenes in the movie for me, by far, it's the night of the raids in the ghetto, and the officers are just quietly listening with stethoscopes, listening around to see if people are still hiding throughout the night. And there's someone who climbs out, and they're climbing out of the piano, and they forgot to close the lid of the keys, and they step on it, and you hear that chaos, and you see people run up, and then the piano music starts to play. Into that chaos. And then during that chaos, during the shooting, it then cuts to
Was ist das? Ist das Bach? Ist das Bach? Nein, Mozart. Mozart? Ja.
And then, as he's playing, his comrades who are in the other room killing people come and stop and pause and argue about who is playing, who he is playing. Is it Bach? Is it Mozart? This scene from beat to beat to beat to beat kills me, because it is the carefulness in the thoroughness of the officers to the nonchalance and the lack of care, and it's this scene, that whole segment just pisses me off and breaks my heart. And that's how you know it does what it's intended to do. The way the sound plays into that. I get so viscerally frustrated in that movie, in that scene. I have to calm down. Ugh. After seeing that scene, this is when we see Aman sit and slump.
I wish this fucking night were over.
As if he had to clock in for overtime. And behind him, you just see the lights illuminating of the gunshots in the different windows. I think it's very well done visually, but my gosh. I also think visually the way they showcase fear in this movie is terrifying. They have the scene when they're in Auschwitz and all the women are asked to take off all their clothes and to cut their hair, and they're all pushed into this room, and the door closes and they start to panic, and you think they're being, I don't want to speak for you, but you think they're being gassed, and then the water comes on and they're actually taking a shower. And then it cuts to people fully dressed going underground, and you realize they're actually being gassed. Because why would you spend money on cutting people's hair if they're not going to live anymore? And then there's the other scene where they're trying to pick who's transporting people, and women are cutting themselves to put blood on their cheeks so they look healthier, so they won't be sent there. And then the people who are saved are so relieved that they get to stay, but then they see the envoy of children just being driven away, and you're just like, so now all their joy is, the fake outs in this movie were insane. And Spielberg said it best. He said that the people who this movie is based off of, who are still alive, not everyone watched it because they didn't want to relive it, but those who did watch it, they said two things. They said he did a good job, and they said nothing he did was as scary as what really happened, that he did not exaggerate anything that happened. And if anything, I don't think Spielberg played it safe, but that it wasn't as intense as what it really was like. There are two moments in this movie where Oscar is being compared to the opposing sides in this movie. The first time is when Oscar is getting a new house, and you see this family of well-off Jews taking all their stuff, moving out, Oscar comes in to tour it, and he's looking at the bedroom and they're looking at the room they're going to be sleeping in, and compare and compare and compare and compare. And the wife is like, it could be worse. And the husband's like, how could it be worse? And then 13 more people move in. But it's just this very interesting comparison of, I think for those scenes, I call Oscar the middleman, and how he's living compared to how they're living. And then there's another one with him and Amon. And so it's just like, what is this comparison, and who is Oscar in the middle of this? And the comparison with the Jewish family happens first, and then the comparison with Amon happens later. And it's just very fascinating to me to see when he is benefiting from this side, they compare him. And when he's struggling from being so associated with this side, they compare him. And you don't see a lot of things happen twice in the same movie. And I love how Spielberg did that, to really show that Oscar is definitely more, as far as benefits wise, on the side of the Germans, but he doesn't really fit in anywhere in this because he is so, Some of the themes in this movie were interesting. One of the themes is, what is true power? The argument could be made that Amon had the most power in the movie. He was killing people left and right. Obviously, being someone who has that ability, he is someone with true power. But I want to say, to me, what I think is considered true power is Stern. To me, being powerful is defined by what you do with what you have. And the fact that Stern, between our three main characters, Amon, Schindler, and Stern, was the weakest, but he was the catalyst for the most change. Yes, Oscar in his power was the one who saved everyone, but if it wasn't for Stern, would Oscar have even considered it? That's power to me. Power to be able to do what you can with what you have. Yes, Amon was given the most power. He was given the rights to kill people without consequences until the end. But Stern didn't have anything, and he still changed everything. I also think another theme is that anyone can be a hero. Like, let's be real, Oscar is not a Captain America, Superman type character, which we love. We kind of get bored with the completely good, lawful good character because they're unrelatable, they're unattainable. And I think Oscar being complicated and coming over to help out by the end is a really strong thing. And I think it makes it more realistic for everyone else. Again, as I said, my country is going through some insane things right now. And as a result, this is where people who didn't always have an opinion need to have one. Because there's only so much you can do just sitting still, And as a result of that, the question is, okay, what side of history do you want to be on? And it doesn't have to be as big and grandiose as a super holy character like Superman. People might not have the resources like Schindler, but you could have the personality of Schindler and still save someone, or still help something, or still have an opinion or fight, and so anyone can be a hero. And I think that is huge. I think that's huge. I don't think heroism is a lifestyle. I think it's split hair decisions. And I think sometimes we think it's a whole lifestyle. One small scene that I feel like has a huge theme in the movie is the idea around what is essential. I get really mad about the scene with the teacher.
Not essential. I think you misunderstand the meaning of the word.
No blow shines, sir. Stand over there. Move. Next.
Being not essential. I teach history and literature. Since when it's not essential?
And then he goes back saying he's a metal worker, and they're like, oh yeah, come on. It's hard to watch because who in history is gonna want the enemy to teach anyone anything about what happened? You're not gonna be the good guy. History is written by the victors. And so having a teacher from the side that you are oppressing makes no sense, because you don't want them to tell the truth about the situation. You want to be able to write history the right way. It's really hard to watch that scene. I hate it. It's the same thing when we went through COVID. Like, teachers weren't considered essential. Some of my favorite shots in the movie is the candle scene. I love when the candle starts in color. The movie starts in color and then it fades to black and white as the candle goes out. And Spielberg actually had to fight to have the movie in black and white. I also really enjoyed the scene in the beginning where it started with one table and one chair for the registration, and then someone says name, and then it explodes to everyone because you see how quickly things grow and develop. It's amazing. Some of my favorite shots are the Oscar Stern when they're facing opposite sides of each other. I love how carefree and blasé Oscar is in the beginning and how rigid Stern is, and you can see this animosity coming from Stern and this like, listen, you don't have to like me, but I'm the only chance you have. I really enjoy that comparison. And throughout the movie, Oscar offers Stern drinks and Stern doesn't take them. But then at the end, you see Stern is about to go to Auschwitz and Oscar's trying to convince him it'll get better. And Stern's like, I think I should have that drink now. And they're both sitting in the same way, as opposed to being completely opposite. They're both mirroring each other and they both toast and they both drink. And if I remember correctly, they're sitting on opposite sides. And so I think that showcases to me that Oscar is seeing the reality of the situation and he's seeing the other side. And there's a camaraderie there that I think is very well done. I also really enjoy the scene of the girl in the red coat. She was real. When Oscar watched that scene, the ghettos getting destroyed, he saw a girl in a red coat, and that was the catalyst for him realizing how much chaos is happening and watching this girl just navigate through all of this without getting hurt, and no one's paying attention to her because there's so much happening. It's crazy to know she was real. And I don't think in real life Oscar knows what happened to her, but in the movie, they show that she doesn't make it. And then finally, I think the ending of the movie is beautiful. I think it breaks the fourth wall in a way. I think it's very, as I mentioned before, it's very safe to be like, this was great for the past, long ago. And then you see them place the flowers on, or the stones on Oscar's grave, and you realize these people are still alive. This wasn't that long ago. This isn't really history, is it? It's reality, and it's happening. And I like the fourth wall break. I like seeing the actors who portrayed the characters, or the loved ones of the characters, because some of them aren't alive anymore, walking together to pay homage to this man who saved so many lives. And we need that fourth wall break. We need that this is real moment. And I'm very glad that was added to the movie. So I also really enjoy the scenes where you see Oscar take pieces of himself off to give to Stern to get people. I think it sucks to see how much a life is worth. But it's nice to see someone was willing to pay it. So, and that's it for this movie. I think that I will place this movie as number 2, because it's not every day you get to see history repeat itself in real time. And that just shows how much this movie stands the test of time. I hope you all have a good day. See you later.